In this episode, we're going to focus on long-term credentials, meaning secrets that do not expire quickly and therefore become especially valuable targets for attackers. Even though modern cloud designs often prefer short-lived tokens, long-term credentials still exist in many environments for legacy reasons, integration requirements, operational convenience, or simple habit. The reason this topic matters is that a long-term credential can act like a durable key that works long after it was created, which means a single leak can create a slow-burning risk that stays hidden until an attacker decides to use it. Beginners sometimes think credential security is mostly about keeping passwords private, but in cloud security, storage patterns are often the deciding factor. Where you store long-term credentials, how you protect access to them, and how you prevent them from spreading determines whether theft is difficult and detectable or easy and silent. Our goal is to give you clear storage patterns that resist theft and help you recognize risky patterns quickly in exam-style scenarios. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Start with the simplest risk statement. Long-term credentials are attractive because they provide stable access, and stable access enables planning. An attacker who finds a long-term key can test it quietly, wait for the right moment, and then use it to access resources without needing to maintain a foothold on a compromised workload. This differs from short-lived tokens, where an attacker often needs to keep control of a system to renew access. Long-term credentials also tend to be shared across systems, such as a key used by many workloads or by a pipeline and a runtime service, and that sharing increases both exposure paths and blast radius. Another risk is that long-term credentials often accumulate privileges over time, especially when they are treated as special and not reviewed. When you combine durability, shareability, and privilege creep, you get a secret that can unlock far more than its original purpose. Storage patterns are how you break that combination by reducing who can access the credential and limiting where it can appear. A good mental model for secure storage is to treat long-term credentials like controlled hazardous material rather than like ordinary configuration. You want as few copies as possible, you want strict access controls around the copies that do exist, and you want clear auditability about who accessed them and when. The first pattern, therefore, is centralization into an approved secret storage system rather than scattering secrets across files, scripts, and environment variables. Centralization matters because it reduces sprawl, and sprawl creates exposure through many channels, such as source control, images, logs, and debugging. When secrets are centralized, you can enforce consistent encryption, access control, and monitoring. Beginners sometimes assume centralization creates a single point of failure, but scattered secrets are actually many points of failure. A centralized store with strong controls is usually safer than dozens of uncontrolled copies in unknown places. A second pattern is access mediation, meaning the secret store should be the only place where the credential exists in long-term form, and systems should retrieve it only when needed. The key idea is that the credential should not live permanently in workload files or build artifacts. Instead, the workload retrieves the credential at runtime through an authenticated request, uses it for a specific purpose, and then the credential should not be written to disk or printed to logs. This reduces the number of places an attacker can steal it from, because the attacker must either compromise the secret store or compromise the workload at the moment the secret is used. It does not eliminate risk, but it narrows and concentrates the risk, which makes defense more practical. Access mediation also enables better monitoring, because secret retrieval events become visible and can be flagged when they are unusual. When you can see access, you can detect theft attempts earlier. Encryption is part of secure storage, but it needs to be understood as a supporting layer rather than a complete solution. Encrypting credentials at rest protects against certain kinds of storage theft, such as unauthorized access to disks or backups, but it does not protect against an attacker who can legitimately request the secret through the secret store interface. That is why encryption must be paired with strong access control, least privilege, and monitoring. A common beginner misunderstanding is assuming that because a secret is encrypted, it is safe. Yet if many roles can request decryption, the secret is effectively exposed to all those roles. A strong storage pattern ensures that only a minimal set of identities can retrieve the secret, and that retrieval requires context that matches the intended use. Encryption helps prevent accidental exposure through storage mishandling, but authorization prevents exposure through misuse. When you evaluate a scenario, always ask who can actually retrieve the secret, not just whether it is encrypted. Least privilege applies strongly to secret access because secret retrieval is a high-impact permission. A workload that only needs one credential should not have access to an entire vault of credentials. A developer who only needs read access to logs should not be able to retrieve production secrets. A pipeline that only needs to deploy to one environment should not have access to secrets for all environments. The storage pattern here is segmentation inside the secret store, where secrets are grouped by environment and purpose, and access policies restrict retrieval narrowly. Segmentation is what prevents a single compromise from turning into access to everything. Without segmentation, a secret store becomes a prize that unlocks the whole organization, which encourages attackers to target it. With segmentation, an attacker who compromises one workload can retrieve only a small subset of secrets, which reduces blast radius. This is the same logic as resource segmentation, applied specifically to secrets. Another critical storage pattern is avoiding embedding long-term credentials into machine images and build artifacts, because those artifacts are designed to be copied. If a secret is baked into an image, then every instance created from that image may carry the secret. If a secret appears in a build artifact, it may be stored in artifact repositories, cached, and shared with many teams. Even if you later rotate the secret, old images and old artifacts can continue to leak it, and you might not even know they exist. A resilient storage pattern ensures secrets are injected at runtime through controlled retrieval, not during build time in a way that becomes part of the artifact. This separation between build and runtime is one of the most important distinctions beginners can learn. Build systems should produce clean artifacts without embedded secrets, and runtime systems should retrieve secrets through narrow, monitored channels. You also want patterns that prevent secrets from being exposed through common operational behaviors, especially logging and debugging. Many accidental credential leaks happen when systems log configuration or print error messages that include secret values. A secure storage pattern, therefore, includes disciplined handling of secret values so they are not included in logs, not echoed in build output, and not displayed in diagnostic interfaces. This is partly an application design issue, but it is also a storage pattern issue because centralized secret retrieval makes it easier to standardize how secrets are handled. If every team stores secrets differently, it becomes difficult to enforce consistent redaction and safe logging. If secrets are retrieved through a standardized mechanism, you can build standardized rules around it. In exam scenarios, mentions of verbose logging, debugging mode, or centralized logs combined with poor secret handling should signal a likely exposure path. A secure environment treats logs as sensitive because logs often end up in many hands. Another storage pattern that resists theft is to separate secrets by lifecycle and to avoid long-term credentials when a short-lived option exists. But when you must use long-term credentials, you design strong operational controls around them. This includes clear ownership, controlled creation, and strong naming and tracking so you know what exists and why. A secret that nobody owns tends to never get rotated and never get reviewed, which increases the risk that it becomes overprivileged or forgotten. Storage patterns that resist theft include metadata around secrets, such as what system uses them and what environment they belong to, not because labels are magical, but because traceability supports governance. Traceability also supports rapid response, because if a secret is suspected to be exposed, you need to know where it is used so you can rotate it without causing outages. Attackers benefit when defenders cannot locate and rotate secrets quickly. Good storage patterns reduce that defender uncertainty. The physical and logical placement of secret access also matters, because where retrieval occurs shapes your exposure. If secrets are retrieved by workloads that are public-facing, those workloads are more likely to be attacked, and therefore secret retrieval from those workloads is higher risk. A safer pattern is to keep secret retrieval in internal components with reduced exposure, and to limit public-facing components to minimal permissions that do not include broad secret access. This is similar to designing metadata-safe compute patterns, but applied to long-term secrets. If the most exposed part of your system can retrieve the most powerful long-term credential, you have created a high-leverage compromise path. If the most exposed part of your system has minimal privileges and cannot retrieve sensitive credentials, then compromise remains contained. When you assess a scenario, look for where secrets are accessed and whether that access is aligned with exposure risk. Monitoring and alerting are also part of storage patterns because resisting theft is not only about prevention, it is also about detection and response. If an attacker tries to retrieve many secrets, or retrieves secrets at unusual times, or from unusual identities, those events should stand out. A mature secret storage approach produces audit evidence for retrieval events and uses that evidence to detect misuse. Monitoring also supports audit and cleanup because you can identify secrets that are never used or secrets that are accessed more broadly than expected. Beginners sometimes view monitoring as a separate topic, but in practice it is part of secret safety because it makes theft attempts noisy. Attackers prefer secrets they can steal silently and use later, and monitoring turns silent theft into observable behavior. If a scenario describes a secret store but no monitoring of secret access, you should treat that as a weakness because it reduces the chance of early detection. A final storage pattern that resists theft is to minimize the scope and power of long-term credentials themselves, because storage controls are stronger when the secret is not a master key. If a credential is limited to a narrow resource set and a narrow action set, theft impact is reduced. If a credential can be used only from a specific context, theft becomes harder to exploit outside that context. Even if you cannot implement perfect context restrictions, you can still follow the principle by avoiding global credentials and by separating credentials by environment and by application. This also supports rotation and incident response because you can revoke one secret without disrupting unrelated systems. The more you centralize all power into one credential, the more fragile your environment becomes. Theft resistance comes from making each secret small in scope, while controlled in access and visible in use. As we close, securing long-term credentials is primarily about storage patterns that reduce sprawl, reduce access, and increase visibility, because long-term secrets are valuable precisely because they persist. Centralize long-term credentials into controlled secret storage rather than scattering them across files, images, and pipelines. Mediate access so secrets are retrieved only when needed, used carefully, and never written into durable artifacts or logs. Pair encryption with strict authorization, segmentation, and least privilege so only the right identities can retrieve the right secrets. Keep secret access aligned with workload exposure so public-facing components do not become secret brokers. Ensure monitoring and audit evidence exist for secret retrieval so theft attempts are detectable and response is fast. When you can recognize these patterns, you can spot risky designs that make theft easy and silent, and you can choose safer answers and architectures that keep long-term credentials from becoming the quiet key to a major breach.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit DailyCyber.News.